Hello, and welcome to the When Wellbeing Becomes a Team Sport podcast. I'm Kristen Schennerlein, founder of Koi Coaching and Consulting, well-being strategist, and a lover of all things leadership, growth, and well-being. I am here with you today. We're going to be looking at the topic of awareness, how we're aligning our own personal strengths and purpose for sustainable well-being. Sustainable meaning for the long term. And I think I want to start with, I always kind of begin with a little eyes into my world as a executive coach. I once worked with a leader who was exhausted, as many of us can find ourselves at times. And it wasn't because she wasn't capable or that she was spending too much of her time doing any one thing. What she was doing was she was working against her strengths. She was busy, right? And she was competent. She was getting things done and very committed, but she wasn't working in alignment with her strengths. When we consider that burnout is on the rise, burnout sometimes doesn't always have to do with just capacity limitations. So, foundational to the work that I am doing here and introducing to you is this idea of job demands and resources as a theoretical foundation, right? If we feel that the demands of our job are too high, too strong, and that we don't have enough resources, we are burnt out. But if we are more resourced, we're going to be more engaged. We're going to be able to meet the demands of our work. And so burnout just isn't always about capacity. Sometimes it's not realizing that we have some resources, in effect, our own strengths. That inability to align our strengths with the work that we need to do could cause us to feel overwhelmed, to cause us to feel stretched. And so I want to introduce this idea of awareness as a foundation, right? What is awareness? Well, it's a cornerstone, as Daniel Goleman introduced in Emotional Intelligence. It's a cornerstone of emotional intelligence. Everything starts with us being self-aware. Before we can worry about anyone else, we have to start with awareness of ourselves and how we are showing up. And then kind of move out another circle is we have to be able to self-manage our emotions, our experience, our work, before we can get to others' awareness and others' management. And then awareness oftentimes syncs up with mindfulness. John Kabat-Zinn, he shared that mindfulness is attentional clarity. Attentional clarity. So what we put our attention towards in a moment. It's not just about breathing, calming, relaxing, closing our eyes, but it's about attentional clarity. Think about mindful eating, mindful walking. So really being present with what it is we're doing. So you can't align with something, in the case of my client, right? You can't align with your strengths if you're not aware of them. But strengths are often invisible. Not everybody's working with a coach and can do an assessment to give you that data. And so we can be blind to our strengths. And what does that look like? Well, we can just see that we can feel that the things that we do well, the strengths that we have, are just normal. We can take them for granted and not see them as special, kind of our superpowers. I utilize the VIA character strengths. Are foundational to positive psychology. There are values in action. When the field was founded, those were kind of the mechanism that was going to be used to work with clients and identifying what would help them thrive. And so in traditional psychology, you would go in to work with a psychologist and they would use the DSM book to diagnose what was wrong with you, and the values in action, the VIA character strengths, were to identify what was right with you, so we could leverage those strengths for you to lead a fulfilling, flourishing, full life. And so the key when I'm working with clients around that is to identify what are their signature strengths, the things that come easy or energizing to them, effortless. There's generally 5 top signature strengths. And the strengths are essentially pathways to virtues. When the scientists and founders of positive psychology went out into the field in the late 1990s, what they identified was 6 virtues that were consistent across the board for people that were thriving, not just surviving. And that didn't matter where you were in the world, socioeconomic background, third world country. And those virtues became kind of the drivers that were the focus of the efforts for what it means to thrive. And that is foundational to the work of positive psychology and the science of well-being. One of my top character strengths is honesty. I feel like that is a superpower when it comes to coaching. Of course, the key to our strengths is to be able to know the golden mean of how we use them, not to underutilize them, right? And so withhold information for me would be the underuse of my top strength of honesty. But the overuse of that may be blurting things out that aren't really in the right time, at the right time, in the right context, or to the right degree. Gets me a lot, probably more personally than professionally. When you think about having this level of strengths awareness, it's also important to look and reflect on what strengths are you leaning too hard on, and which ones are you not leaning on enough. So when I provide individuals this report, which gives them their kind of ranking of their character strengths from 1 to 24, and it's not like the 24 is your weakest, it's just we're not leaning on those, then we can look at what might we do to be able to leverage something that might not be strong in us right now. Maybe we can actually use one of our higher strengths to pull up one of our lower strengths. So that's important for you to identify and have awareness. Where do you rely heavily? What strengths are those, and where do you have an opportunity to pull up or increase your use of any other particular strength? And then when we take it, from the individual to how that strengths awareness impacts others, it can be really powerful in a work environment for you to spot strengths of other people. Now, we're often spotting things that people don't do well or right, but to be able to identify what somebody's strengths are in a moment can be extremely validating for that individual, kind of a boost of their positive emotions, can help them with their level of awareness about their strengths, and general good practice, I would say, in building and leading a team. So there's a particular model that I introduce when working with my clients. It's called the C model, SEA. So spot the strength, explain what the experience of that strength was in the moment, and then A, share the appreciation of that strength. Why was it important to you in that moment that I was honest with you? So when we name the strengths, we build a sense of, like I said, validation, but also mattering. So mattering is this idea that we are adding value and being valued. And so just the strength spotting alone can be really impactful in building that sense of mattering within our team. And I would say when it comes to our link to psychological capital, that resource that we need to navigate what's challenging or hard, strengths awareness can increase our ability to have that level of self-efficacy, that I can do it attitude. When we know that we are strong in one particular area, we know that we can leverage that. That can be helpful as we, head towards our goals. It also boosts optimism, our ability we know things can be better in the future. So I think from an individual standpoint, it's really helpful to know what you can leverage personally, but it's also really important to spot those strengths in other people, take it out to others. And then I think from an organizational perspective, to really take the time, many of us are familiar and introduced to a SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Well, personally for me, 50% of that analysis is negative. So I am more inclined to use the SOAR analysis. SOAR analysis is your strengths, opportunities, your aspirations, and your results, which I think can still attend to and attune to what may be weaknesses. Those are our opportunities for growth, or what may be threats that exist that are outside of our control. When we think about, well, why just because 50% of it is negative, Kristen, do we avoid it? Well, what we attune to, what we pay attention to as individuals and as organization is what generally grows. So if I'm going to focus my team on our weaknesses and our threats, then we're going to end up in this problem-solving firefighter type of mode of leading this company, this organization, where I can attune them to opportunities, aspirations, strengths, and the results that we want to have, what success looks like. That inspires, motivates towards a vision in a really meaningful way. So then if we kind of come full circle, and we come back, we looked at like strengths for the individual, the strength spotting in others, and then from an organizational level, how do we have awareness of our strengths through this SOAR analysis, and then it comes to purpose and what that really means for you as an individual, and awareness of that purpose. I utilize the Ikigai framework, which in Japanese means reason for living. And it is traditional Venn diagram, intersecting circles. What do you love? What are you good at? Your strengths. What does the world need? And what sustains you? What drives you energetically? What can you make money at, maybe? And I think that when you can help people identify those 4 areas, take them through an exercise, and they can really hone in what's at the intersection of all those 4 circles. What does it look like? What is your purpose? That leads to greater contribution, greater value add. That's coming from one of my favorite professors, Dr. Isaac Perlotensky, who studies mattering, community psychologist that I am fortunate to be working under at the University of Miami, my doctorate in community leadership. But this purpose really is a driver of contribution and our value, not productive value, but relational value, really important there. And I think when we think about this awareness of our strengths and our purpose, it becomes a systems lever for us as leaders within a company and organization. Our attention is a leverage point. Where are we focusing? I think I said in a couple episodes ago, shared a quote from William James where what we attend to, right? And so our attention is a leverage point, and our awareness is shaped around the norms that we have established as a team, the pace that we have established as a team, and our leadership behavior. So, awareness isn't just something individually that we are burdened by or responsible for, but we make it a shared condition that everybody is attuned to. Can be really powerful. So well-being deepens when people can say, I know who I am, I know how I contribute and how it matters. And I think that alone, right, is huge in how we lead and how we care for each other's well-being. Well-being deepens when people say, I know who I am, how I contribute, and I know why that matters. So my reflection to you now, an invitation for reflection maybe, is where are you most aligned? Where do you feel most aligned at work? And where is your awareness missing? Where do you have that strength's blind spot? Maybe where are there opportunities for you to shine some light on others' strengths and what they are bringing to the table using that C model? So I will leave you with that today and look forward to our next episode. Thank you for joining me for When Wellbeing Becomes a Team Sport. In a world that often asks us to do more, move faster, and carry our heavier loads, the answer isn't simply becoming more resilient as individuals, it's building stronger teams. If this episode resonated with you, I invite you to share it with someone in your corner of the world and continue the conversation. I'm Coach Kristen, creator of the Co-Care Framework. Until next time, keep looking for ways to move from self-care to co-care, because when well-being becomes a team sport, we all have a better chance of crossing the finish line. Be well, stay connected, and keep making waves. See you next time.